Is it actually on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then I guess we'll call the meeting of the Finance Committee of Stephenson County, circa Monday, May 13th, to order. And I would ask if anyone would care to pray to open the meeting. No,
I can do that.
Okay. That's great.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this group that's gathered here this evening. We thank you for the wisdom of each one of these individuals, and we ask that you use that as we do the business of our county. We thank you for the decisions that you send our way. I ask that you use them wisely. And thank you for this time, and bless everybody's trip home in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Bush.
Second.
Second by Ms. Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Review and approval of meeting minutes from April 15th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Complain. And who are you again?
Mr.
Brand. So we have a motion second. Any discussion from the meeting minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of claims. We'll do the finance first. Finance claims are cash requirements of $454,561.78. Manuals of $463,144.27 for a total of $917,706.05. I would entertain a motion to approve those. So moved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kaplan. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We also have the approval of claims to the admin committee because Larry couldn't get the job done. But no, we have $94,125.74 that we need to approve from administration. So I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Jowers. So you're a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Frick. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments? Anything? Nope. Okay. Reports committee, Diamond Brothers is coming next month. Carrie's gonna give us a mid-month or a mid-year kind of synopsis of what's going on, how everything's rolling. I did not ask her to appear tonight, but I did have a brief discussion with her, so. Any thoughts, questions, anything anybody want me to make sure she brings next month, or? Hearing none, okay. County Administrator, Madam, you have the floor.
Because I'm still huffing.
Yeah.
In my admin report, the city county meeting was scheduled for today. That, however, was canceled this morning. My next Greater Partnership meeting is May 22nd. There was a couple ribbon cuttings that I attended this past month for the new location of This Is It Eatery and La Patrona. Followed up with the regional office of Ed, and we are still waiting on the fully executed agreement with the other two counties for it to be recorded here, but it's been approved and they're just gaining signatures on that. Been continuing with the weekly calls with TCM. Region 1 Land Bank, there's been no meeting since our last meeting. I attended the National Day of Prayer Breakfast on May 2nd. It was really well attended, I thought, and Mr. Copeland and I sat at a table with one of the people from the nursing home, so that was kind of nice just to talk to employees from the county and other areas. Audit, they're wrapping up some final work with the capital asset listing, so we're working with the departments to get that wrapped up. Been getting the lists together for the strategic planning subcommittees. Thank you to those who have let us know where your areas of interest lie. At the department head meeting, I had 2 representatives from Green State come. Larry Feiner is on the Greater Freeport Partnership Board, and we had gotten on a conversation about like employee retention, satisfaction, employee incentives, that sort of thing. So he and Mark Nolte came and presented a program that if the county entered into could offer things to the employees, like a 1% reduction in interest rates on personal loans or mortgage closing credit. So he came and spoke to us about that. I'm still waiting some more information from them for paperwork if it is something we choose to enter into. I reminded everyone about the importance of using the ticketing system for their IT concerns and issues. It seems to be an ongoing where, Nate's getting the emails and the cell phone calls and the texts, but trying to get everyone to commit to the ticketing system so we can prioritize and plan better.
I'm tracking too.
Yeah, and tracking. He did organize another electronics disposal event for county offices. That'll take place May 21st. We talked about the home show and some of the positive feedback. Sounds like it was a really good event and kind of nice to interact with, at least from the department heads that were there, nice to interact with the public on, some other things that offices do and take care of. So we did get the final report on the wellness program, and that was sent to Ms. McWright. Rayanne and I have a conference call Wednesday morning to go over some of those final results, because there was a couple numbers that our lists didn't quite align with the numbers they reported. So we have a call with them on Wednesday. Worked with Adrian, and we'll be presenting the budget policy later. So.
Okay. Any questions?
By any chance, did the city manager mention anything about him had called a few community leaders together to discuss the shootings and stuff in Freeport?
The meeting was canceled this month, but I can bring it up the next time we meet. If you said he did reach out?
Yeah. We have met and okay.
Going back to that Green State thing for a minute, is that something that the department heads would collaborate on and then say, hey, yeah, this is something we'd like to offer the employees, and then that would make its way back here?
I think it would probably come if it's something that we need to agree to or sign on to as the county, Mr. Larson would have to review it, and it would probably come through finance into the board.
Sounds like a good opportunity.
At first glance, it did seem like, even if all county employees may or may not benefit from it, but, depending on what you're looking at, if you're looking at a personal loan or 1%, could be a savings factor if someone's trying to relocate and does a closing, to get a credit. But I also thought to reach out to the other banks in the area and see if they offer similar as well. So, yeah.
Cool.
Anything that doesn't cost the county that could be beneficial.
To the employees. Yeah,
Right.
for sure. That sounds good. All right. Thank you, Jordan. All right, moving on to 7.3, Madam Finance Director, you have the floor.
Okay. This will be very brief since I'm going to discuss the budget policy a little bit later. Just a quick audit update. There's still some outstanding nursing center items. The treasurer and I have a call scheduled with Lindsay Fish from Sickich on Thursday to discuss the accounts payable item that she and I have been trying to provide for, I don't know, ever, 2 months. It's the nursing center accounts payable is just a different animal. So it's hard to nail down what invoices they want to see. So we're still working through that. Hopefully we'll have something for them at the end of this week or beginning of next week.
On that subject, have you ever had any comments from them on the receivable side? Because I still.
Oh, from Sickich?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that it's.
They have,
that far out.
well, they are just wanting more information on accounts receivable, certain line items that don't seem correct. And then various revenues from the multiple payer sources. So,
Okay. So it's more about alignment for them than
yes. Mm-hmm.
the actual terms. Okay.
Yes. And that's really all I have aside from the budget policy.
Well, it looks like we're gonna get into that. Any questions for anybody? On that, budget calendar, anything like that? Okay, hearing none, we'll keep moving. Treasurer's report, 7.4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize to those of you on my committee. This is so repetitive, but for those of you who didn't get to hear, just wanted to touch briefly on the April financial report that I sent the link on Saturday the 4th. Again, the most notable changes are on that investments page where all the highlights are. So there's a lot of activity there. There's a lot of swing. So that kind of correlates to the bottom line numbers looking like there's a big change. There really isn't. It's just money moving in investments, moving out, moving back in, moving back out. So there were $7 million in investments that matured during the month of April. At this time, we have 14.5 million sitting in accounts, in investments rather, earning interest at this point. Because state payments and reimbursements are continuing to arrive on time, it's given me some greater investment flexibility.
That's good.
So I'm trying to take advantage of it while rates stay high. So because we haven't always been able to have any money to invest, so it's kind of new and different for us. So I'm taking advantage of it. The large differences that you see, again, are the result of the investment dollars moving. The most important thing to note is the month's overall status change. It was a very, very small decline over last month in total dollars, $462,735, which is only a drop of 1.47% from the previous month. So given this time of year when we don't have anything coming in from tax distributions, I think that's great. So just wanted to share that. It's a dramatic change from just a few years ago when we were anxiously awaiting that first property tax distribution. The one thing I did want to share with you, just as a put on your radar, and then I'll get back to it later, and I discussed it with the finance director this morning, is that most of you know that we do get a payment from the state called personal property replacement tax. We get 8 payments for that from that source per year. It comes out of the local government distributed fund, which is where a myriad of different reimbursements and payments come from. We are down significantly in that payment, in that revenue source to this point. This time over last year, we were down quite a bit, several $100,000. So I'm hoping that in the second half of the year, that might pick up. I'm not super confident that that's going to happen, because over the past couple of years, there's been a steady decline as more and more reimbursements are coming from that same pot of money. So this particular revenue source is being reduced. I mean, I think we'll end up getting it. It's, for example, not to make a judgment call one or the other, but the sheriff reimbursement, our stipends, all those payments come from that same fund. So as there are changes made there, or increases there, that pot of money then gets smaller to make these personal property replacement tax payments. So we still need, in 4 payments at the end of the year, over $1 million. And the best case scenario I've seen in recent history is $800,000. So I think we're looking at least a $200,000 shortfall. That funds the general fund, Social Security, insurance, and IMRF.
What is the reason? I mean, I understand what you're saying. Is it because the percentage is going down at the state level? They're not paying as much?
It's that there are more, so it's this big pot of money.
Right.
There are more things being paid out of it.
Right.
So this one particular thing is getting a smaller piece of the pie. So there's not as much to pay from. So our percentage, which is based on population, is smaller because there are more things being paid out of that fund now. And there is
not budgeted that way.
We budgeted based on a reasonable expectation from last year, and then the state provides an estimate every July, which makes it very difficult for us to budget because we're halfway through. And so we budgeted last year on what we had to that point. Well, it's significantly less than what we normally see. So hoping for a rebound in the second half of the year, but that's the state's fiscal 25, and we won't even have that estimate until I'm guessing late July this year. So I'm not, it's suggesting it's, doom and gloom right now. I just don't want you to be surprised if we make some adjustments when it comes to the budget time to reflect that. Because one of those, I'm sorry.
Is that happening through policy changes at the state level?
Just legislative changes, I think, again, because of more reimbursements and other payments that the state is making to other entities. They're not, that fund is not increasing, but the number of things that need to be paid out of it are. There is some legislation, though, to increase the amount that counties get back from the local distributed fund, because it's lower than it was years ago. I don't know whether that'll happen or not. it's been talked about for a few years, so. But the only concern I really have is that, if we had to make a choice, it probably would be the general fund that would take the hit because we owe insurance. Insurance needs that money.
Right.
Because there's no tax levy for insurance. There are tax levies for these other funds. So that's 100 that we've gotta get.
Right.
So again, no
Just
doom and
FYI.
gloom, just want you to know, does anybody have any questions about what the financial report had? I mean, I thought it was all really favorable. Sure, so, and then the next big thing is, the clerk passed tax certification extension dated to me at the end of the day, Friday. So it's about a week and a half later than last year, but that's largely due to the state's delay in the equalization matter, so we'll put us behind a little bit. So I actually started work this morning, database reporting, flagging, balancing, confirmation. I've got 195 different billing combinations to test. So hopefully I'll be done by the end of the day Wednesday, off to the printer. Everybody should have them in their hands, hopefully by the end of May. Due date mid-July. So, yay. Give you a little longer to pay. It could be Winnebago. They're giving people 27 days to pay. So I'm giving you 7 weeks. So it's coming.
All right.
Questions?
Any questions? Thoughts, comments?
Thank you.
Very much. I see no old business on the agenda. New business, discuss the fiscal year 25 budget policy. I believe that we go back to Madam Finance Director
Yes.
for our education.
So I wanted to give a little bit of background here. So this year, the auditors took a deeper dive into the fixed assets of the county. We now have a policy in place along with a list for each department on teams. However, during the audit process, Sikich came forward with a comprehensive list that they'd been using since they received it from Whipley when they took over. So they actually want us to work off of their list, which was quite lengthy, and the department heads had already compiled their list on teams, so we had to go back to them and say, hey, just disregard everything you already did, can you do it on this list? So we've been working for the past few weeks with the department heads to get this list compiled and accurate. There were things like categorized like office furniture from 1975. Well, we really don't know what that is.
Good luck, yeah.
It said building from 1960. I mean, it was just not specific at all.
No departments.
Nobody was here. I mean, it was just.
That's why it kind of surprises me that they're asking you to use an old list like that versus trying to just flip over and start with something.
Right. And I think because a lot of those things people didn't know about, but they do qualify. So they wanted us to kind of like clean everything up and have an accurate picture because that's what they have been using since they have become our auditors, which was news to us. So with that said, the administrator and I decided that we really need to kind of make the capital assets and those updates more, bring it to the forefront with the budget process. Because I think if we do that, and it already is in the budget policy, if you go to page 7, it is outlined. I did highlight it in yellow. But this, I think in doing this, it will help committees because if they see this capital asset list, it will help with supplemental requests because you could see what does this department have already? What are they requesting? So there's an individual cost of more than $5,000. So I want to clarify that a little bit. So if an office, let's say like the circuit clerk purchases numerous computers and they amount to $30,000 as a whole, that does not qualify because those computers are not individually more than $5,000. And it's more difficult to decide when they depreciate, when they fall off the capital asset or the fixed asset list. So things like that do not qualify. For insurance purposes, I think they might need to be included. We're still working through that. And if we're gonna have 2 lists, 1 list, I don't know. So that is also highlighted in yellow in the budget presentation. In green on page 8, we did include, along with the department's detailed budget, their budget summary documents that they need to provide that capital asset listing to each committee, so you're all aware of what they do have. Then we move on to page 9. The wage adjustment proposal is in blue, and I have a little bit of information for you. Non-union raise or increase wage adjustment that we gave employees. Then I also wanted to draw your attention to the health insurance component. The employee contribution will increase to 20% in the coming years. And then the numbers below, these are just approximate numbers, so it'll increase around 395,000. So per payroll, that would be a little over 15. And then total IMRF, this is including SLEP and regular IMRFs, is around 35,000, and then Social Security would be 30,000.
How was the 4% proposed? I mean, is that something you guys just discussed and looking at historical data, or?
Yeah, just given that we were so far behind in 22 with the inflation rate, it's kind of evening out. We took union negotiations into consideration and what they so far have been awarded.
No, it seems.
And this is just a, point of discussion. It's a starting point. It's
Right.
nothing set in stone.
And next month.
Yeah. So take that into consideration, committee, and think about that for the next month, please.
The only other thing on the budget policy, which will be up later, on the agenda is the proposed meeting dates for the November meetings.
I did make an error. I apologize. So the insurance is 20% effective in 24. And then in 25, it's 22%. And then in 26, it's 24%. So I apologize for that. Thank you, Stephanie.
Any thoughts, questions, comments on that, folks? Hearing none. Anything else on the budget policy?
Not until we discuss the calendar.
Okay. So with that, we will move on to 9.2, approval of Ninja One renewal for 2024. Mr. Jovers, will you fill in the committee on that one?
Yes, we had this item on our admin committee, but we couldn't vote on it, so we're bringing it here. This is for the Ninja ticketing system that Nate uses, and it is $9,276.84. And he does have that in the budget, so.
That includes it's not just the ticketing, right? It's the professional, the package that we have with all the
Yes,
licenses.
for all the
protections.
users that we have in the
Yeah.
county, so. Yep.
So I would entertain a motion to approve that.
Move to approve.
We beat you to the punch.
That's fine.
You want to second that?
I can second that.
We got a motion, a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Considered. Okay, approval for the resolution of establishing salary for the office of circuit clerk. Mr. Bush, do you have a
Yes.
proposal for the committee to consider?
Yes. I did a lot of researching and asking and looking, and so I went, just like I said. Yes.
Thank you.
I went back and looked at the circuit clerk and the county clerk and treasurer. Seeing in 2020 and 2021, the salaries were pretty much close, but it changed in 2022, where the clerk and the treasurer got high increase percentage-wise in wages, so that kind of changed. So I'm asking, and on the bottom of the sheet, I looked at different percentages and stuff. So I'm asking for $86,000 to, just proposal, for that reason. And then also two, talking with Chanel and, getting some kind of idea of what her office really does. Well, the first office then learn about new procedures and requirements. Then they had to inform other parties and interact with 5 judges, state's attorney, public defender, voices, sheriff office, Freeport police, private lawyers, and the public. Now, I will say this though, I took Chanel out the picture. I'm just looking at the position.
Mhm.
It was hard, but I took her out. And then also too, the state economy mandating her office and everything, different filing and stuff. So, with that, as I stated, guys have been doing some work over the weekend. Proposed salary year for her, like I said, I was asking for $86,000. 2025 would be 4% from that. It would be $89,440. In 2026, $93,17.60. In 2027, be $96,738.30. That's all 4% increase. Now on the bottom there is the clerk and treasurer. What their proposed salary will be. So that's my request.
So that brings all 3 of them into more of an equitable situation.
Right. I might have added correctly, I might not, but yeah.
So if I understand your motion correctly, Mr. Bush, the second sheet we received, the amount in red.
The amount in red, correct.
2024 would be 86,000, 2025, 89,440, 26, 93,017.60, and 27, 96, 738.30. Is
Right.
that what your motion is?
Yes.
To propose those as the salary. Do I hear a second?
Of course, the insurance will go up.
To those amounts.
I think I'll second that and I'll explain why.
Mr. Jogers, I hear a second. Let's have a discussion.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
Okay. So it appears that gets it fairly close. Circuit clerk would be slightly ahead. The reason why I second that is the number of employees is 12 versus what the other 2 positions hold. And I realize how much work that is when you have extra employees. So I think that's fair and equitable. So that's my reasoning.
My goal is to try to get them close together.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why they're not today. I didn't have a chance to look at this myself previously, but.
So
it seems to me-
the reset and off schedules, so they're only reset, because we're elected on off schedule, so they would never be reset at the same time.
Gotcha.
So there's always gonna be a discrepancy. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right. No, I appreciate the input.
Do we have to grant a 4-year contract or obligations at this point, or can we do a year or 2?
I believe, the resolution establishing the salary for the office of the circuit clerk if you look at the resolution, it goes through 2027. Currently, the way it's written.
Statute.
I don't know if there's a,
I think that's
Statutory.
I think
Yeah,
that's
you're required to set it.
That's set before that, yeah.
Fair enough, thank you.
yes, sir.
I do have a question. I'm wondering how come it don't go through committee first before it come here?
Well, if I may.
Yes, sir.
And we kind of talked about this Saturday, it's always come through finance for all elected
The
officials.
salary stuff.
Goes way back. It's never gone through the committees. From my perspective, all of you are the oversight chairs. So you should deliberate this, in my opinion. I'm not speaking for past administrations on why they did it, but you guys can deliberate and make a recommendation to the full board. It does have a major financial impact, all these salaries. And I guess one component of this that I would like to know is what impact these increases have to IMRF.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
And that will be a question that will come up at the board's level. You can be sure of that. So we will need to know that at some point.
When does this have to be decided?
180 days prior to taking office, I believe.
This month.
So, yeah, it needs to be done now, which is why we brought it back from last month.
Could we give the floor to Chantel?
Go ahead.
To the question of, does the resolution have to be 1 year or 2 years or 4 years? So it actually does not have to be 4 years. It has traditionally been that way, I believe, here. Other counties, a lot of other counties do not do that. I know Carroll County doesn't and Dorades County does not. There is an attorney general opinion because the circuit clerk is a non-judicial officer of the judicial branch of the state government. There is an opinion that the clerk is not an officer of the unit of the local government and therefore does not prohibit increasing or decreasing the salary of the clerk of the circuit court during the term for which he or she is elected, providing that the salary is within any minimum or maximum amount set by statute. And I do have that opinion if you're looking for it.
Madam Finance Director, is there a percentage in terms of IMRF contribution that you can reasonably calculate what that
Yes,
increase
so
in
they do change the AMRA rate every year.
impact
I could use just 2024's rate.
would be? Okay,
So
you're talking at least initially a $14,000 increase is about 13 and a half. So that would be the amount, whatever that percentage is.
it's 2 points.
But that contribution would end up being similar to what the contribution before. The circuit court and treasurers.
Well, we're all tier one, I mean,
Right, it all
there's no
factors into
difference. It's
the
4.1.
Thank you for your work on this, Mr. Bush. By the way.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add, while we're working on that,
Yes, ma'am.
it's actually a much bigger hit to Social Security than it is to IMRF.
Okay,
Because our IMRF contribution rate currently is under 3%.
okay,
Social Security and Medicare is what, 7.65?
okay.
So it's more than double.
Yeah, but even on 13.5, that's not that.
No, I mean, I'm just saying,
No.
in terms of impact in our county, in other counties, it might be more significant, but we have a very low currently, and let's hope we keep it, employer contribution rate, which is, our rate is almost unheard of. It's so low, which is great.
Yeah. Let's keep that up.
Right. That helps manage expenses a great deal.
So between the two, it's about 10%. What I hear you saying.
So social security would be 1,030. Yeah. And IMRF is $335
Well, anyway, 15. 13.
for the first year.
For the first year.
First year only.
Right, and then it's gonna go from there, so. So we have to factor that into the equation. Any other thoughts on this? From a, the hardest part about this, in my view, is the affordability factor. I mean, right now, we're sitting pretty decent budget-wise, but as soon as you start going up in salaries, and they're looking at 4% increase across the board for employees, that's gotta come from somewhere. And if I'm a little bit concerned about the EAV around here continuing to increase. It has gone up the last few years. But on the flip side, I think it makes a lot of sense to have these three positions equitably compensated. So I agree with, I think the proposal for Mr. Bush to forward this on the board at this point. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Madam Note Taker, would you like to do a roll call vote, please? I would appreciate it. Please proceed. Yes, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Baker?
Aye.
Bush?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. That was easy. Okay, thank you. Again, thank you, Mr. Bush, for all the information.
Thank
We
you.
can move on to the next one. What?
We didn't set the insurance percentage
In
in the bottom clause. In the,
I apologize, I missed that.
well, previously, the other elected officials were moved up to the 24%.
So,
I don't know what,
hear a recommendation on that, Mr. Bush. Would you like to start that one out? The other folks are at 24% of the insurance benefit side in terms of contribution. I think it makes sense to keep that the same.
Are they at 22?
24.
24. 24. Cause I had on here, to go up there with the 24. So,
Okay,
for 24.
Yeah, the other county employees are under the resolution, but elected officials,
Elected,
since the
right.
last election cycle
Alright,
got.
yeah, I
moved to
remember talking
24.
about that now, so. I heard a motion for 24% on the insurance side. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McLean. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Adrian, clarifying that. All right, Mr. McLean, you are up.
We don't have any of the printouts and everything that Mr. Bush have, but Coroner, Mr. Welch gave us material last time. And I looked at all the surroundings, counties, and had to do some comparisons and deaths and explain them all. I'm going to make a motion to increase the coroner's salary for 2024 to $62,500 with a 3% increase the next 3 years to $63,375, 2025, 2026, $65,276, and 2027 to $67,234,000, also with the 24% share on the insurance premium.
Can you repeat the numbers? again?
Sure. 62,500 for 2024, 63,375 for 2025, 65,276 for 2026, and $67,234 for 2027.
And what is it right now?
$45,000.
45,625. Now, we had, the coroner in last month to explain, his take on a lot of this, and we've got some data today from, a survey. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at that. But again,
Where'd that come from?
I tend to look at that as just a reference point, but,
Who did that survey come from? Oh, this one.
that was
I sent that.
George just sent that out.
Okay.
Now, percentage wise, that's a pretty hefty increase. So I heard, hang on, before I get too far, I heard a motion. We have numbers. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any thoughts on this? That's a pretty good jump the first year,
Sure.
but you wanna lay the facts out there?
Sure, I will. For 2023, coroner had 560 deaths that he handled. And for I use his comparables as a reference point. Ogle County had 507. Grundy County had 398, Boone had 398, Adams County had 953. I tried contacting them and see why that was so inflated. Williams County had 478, DeKalb had 643, and Kendall County had 362. The two most reasonable and I think best comparison was Williamson County and Boone County. Now, Boone County, the coroner is making $68,867. In Williams, it's $54,027. So that puts about $9,000 from the lowest comparable to me. I looked online and saw what the average salary employee for Stephenson County, the coroner, is $3,000 below that. Mr. Welch, or Coroner Welch, he, being a police officer, I know what kind of scenes he goes through and has to appear at. Suicides, accidents, he's on call 24/7. So if he's eating Thanksgiving dinner and he gets the call, he has to go out. It's not a set job. I mean, he can have, like this last 2 weeks, since the start of May, he's had 5 autopsies. Along with an autopsy goes a report. He has to make a decision at the scene whether he's going to do an autopsy, have it referred to the doctor. And that's very important in case something he considers is all right. And it later turns out that there was foul play and needed to be an autopsy. On top of that, the coroner, I feel, should have that kind of raise because Mr. Welch said there was only one individual that put his name on the ballot for coroner. I think this is grossly underpaid. If we want some prospects running for coroner in the future, I think it has to be a salary that attracts people. We want people with a medical background, and I think the candidate right now has some medical background, and that's about all I have on that.
There is somebody running now. Somebody,
I think he's
that's gonna
unopposed.
take the place of.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Craig.
There is no requirement for any medical background whatsoever to be coroner. All you have to do is be 18 and electable. That's all the law requires. Whether you like it or not, that's all the law requires. 17% increase, that's a hell of an increase, folks. That's a hell of an increase. And especially when we're talking about, I'm not gonna go there. I just don't think that at this point, we look at Illinois all the time, but if we cross the border and look at our counterparts in Wisconsin and what their coroners are getting, significantly less. I disagree with you when you say, well, he's on call 24 hours. He chose that. He knew that when he took the job. And every coroner knows that when they take the job. If they don't like that part of it, then they shouldn't take the job. So I don't think that's a point that we should use as a point of giving them a raise. That's part of the job. If you don't like that part, then don't take the job. So I can't agree with this kind of a raise. Like a significant raise, way too significant raise. I don't see that.
Other thoughts, comments? Yeah, I guess my 2 cents on it would be, I'm kind of in the middle. I understand the desire for the increase in some of the things around it, in the comparables and things of that nature. It's a pretty gruesome job, you know, when you get down to it. Have to deal with that stuff all the time. But yeah, you know, as far as the being on call, I mean, Mr. Frick makes a good point that, you know, they do know that when they get into the job. That's difficult, you know, but it's part of the equation. What's the, yeah, I'm struggling with that big of an increase over what we have on the books today, especially if there's no requirements for a medical person. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Complain. Because I think it makes sense to have somebody that at least has some knowledge of what they're doing. But why would that be? You have any idea what that is, Mr. Frick? That there's no requirements for it? Mr. Helm?
There's no for a lot of the elected positions.
Because that's insane. I would think they'd at least have.
You have to be 18.
None of them have that
All you
requirement.
have to do is be electable.
I think you're just lucky that you have people who have that background, but
Yeah.
it's not required for the position.
So, I mean, if you went even a 10% increase, which is a pretty hefty increase in the salary, you're at 50,000 at least. Is that, you know, I'm throwing out numbers. I haven't investigated this myself. I'm trying to discuss it at the committee with the other members that might have been involved with this for a longer time than myself. Are there any thoughts on the starting point other than 62.5 on an increase? From anyone? I know we're kind of at the bullet point here. We got to do something, so.
I guess I'm in the same boat, same spot. I'm thinking that's 37% is too much for 1 year, although I recognize that we may be a little behind, I guess, at 45,625. So that said, I propose to amend the motion and use a 10% increase, which would be 50,187.
Before you finish your motion, I was thinking along the same lines, Brian. What if we went 10% that first year and maybe 5% the next 3? Is that reasonable?
I would be good with that.
Committee consider that as an option, as an amendment? So that's a motion to amend. Do I hear a second to that regard?
Second.
Second by Mr. Frick. Any other discussion on that? Mr. Coplain, is that reasonable? I know it's not where you want to be, but.
Well, when you have one of the, Williamson at 54, which is the most comparable to everything, I think we should at least do the same as Williamson County. I mean, they have about the same number of deaths. They have 478.
You know what their budget is?
I tried looking that up, and it was difficult.
Yeah, if you weren't so far behind, I would agree with you. But- So if you increase that by 1.5 or 0.5 every year beyond that. So you got 50,000, I'm just trying to get the numbers out there, 50,187 would be 2024. 5%, 2025 would be 52,696.35. $55,331.17. $58,097.72. So we would still likely be behind Williamson County at that point. But I would imagine we would catch up a little bit.
Let's see.
We have a motion in a second, I believe, right?
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. If I remember procedurally, we need to vote on that first. So
What was it, 50,000?
it'll be 50,187, which would be a 10% increase.
And 5% each year after.
So IMRF, that's still gonna be 4,400,
Too bad.
$600, give or take. Not quite sure.
Not bad.
Somewhere in that, you know. It's all going up, Mr. Chairman. It's just money.
We'll prep for it.
That's right.
I was gonna ask you about that printer.
That's what bakers do.
With the government.
I know, I'm teasing you.
It's going, man.
83 million, that's what it is.
Yeah, let's do,
I have Williams.
so we got a motion and a second for 50,187 and the other numbers I just told everybody, which ends up at 58,097 at year 4. And I believe that you were planning on changing the 24% contribution that was originally offered by Mr. Cobain, right? That's gonna stay the same.
5% each year.
Yeah, so it'd be, the starting point at 5187 with a 5% increase thereafter for the next 3 years.
So
Play a little catch up.
51.
51,187. 50,187 dollars.
Even.
Even,
I do have Williamson County's budget total, if you'd like that number.
please.
83,301,000.
So they got a little bit more money to spend. Too. So I was figuring that might be a factor. Thank you very much. Okay. So we have that on the floor, a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call. You gonna start with me again?
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
Wayland,
yes.
Aye.
Copeland,
No.
Yes.
Baker. Aye. Bush,
Aye.
Grant.
Okay. Motion passed 6-1. So we don't need to go back to the original motion.
Yes, you do.
We do?
Yes, you do.
As amended.
That's amendment.
Oh, so we go back to the original motion as amended. Would you please do a roll call on that?
Wayland,
Aye.
Childers. Copeland,
Aye.
Aye.
Baker. Aye. Bush.
Aye.
Second.
That clarifies. Thank you all very much. All right. Whew. Approval to change the November meeting date and time. 9:25.
So as the finance director and I were looking through modifications or suggested changes in the budget policy, we started looking at the calendar, that is the last page of the budget policy, and realized that there is a 14-day spread between the first and second reading of the budget, for the first reading and then the final approval. The statute, which is 55 ILCS 5/6-1001, reads at least 15 days. So before I conferred with Carl, we did look back. Most years it's been that. We did have a year in 2020 where it was only 14 days, but he said, let's do it right moving forward.
Right.
So, of course, looking at the calendar and the way that the Thanksgiving holiday falls on the last 2 business days of the year, or of the month, I'm sorry, not the year. I'm not quite sure what the committee's thoughts are of when finance or that first county board meeting.
I thought you had a recommendation.
Well,
So the current finance
there's
committee meets on
wrinkles
the
with
11th.
depending on who you talk to. I'm sorry.
I said the current meeting of the finance committee will be on the 11th of November.
It could be if you hold it on Veterans Day.
That's Veterans Day.
Or was that
It's scheduled for the 8th,
for
right?
the
now.
8th in the morning?
Correct, because of Veterans Day.
And so then we could meet until the 29th.
Could be what?
No, I'm looking at 15 days.
You could meet the
22nd.
27th is what I was looking at.
So yeah, could do it the 27th. I don't know with it being the night before Thanksgiving. With travel, the board,
I don't think you can worry about that.
well, I know it came up with making sure we have quorum. That would have been my initial thought, was have it that night, and that was what I was going to recommend.
When
We
is it
also
right now,
talked,
the 26th?
Yeah.
Well, what about the morning of the 27th or something like that?
what's that?
The morning of the 27th.
I mean, a lot of people take that day off anyway. I know I don't have.
That's a good idea.
I just want to
That's why you're
know.
the chair.
I can work with that.
What are your thoughts on that?
Wednesday.
You know, we're a public body and a lot of public will be at work that day. There's very few people that will be off on the 27th. So I think for transparency purposes, you should have it in the evening to give the public the opportunity to come speak and observe. So I would not recommend having a board meeting during the day. That's my recommendation on one vote. And not here tonight.
Why isn't Thanksgiving the 21st?
It's always the 4th Thursday.
Is it the 4th? I thought it was the 3rd.
It's because the month starts on the
Yeah.
1st, which is a Friday.
It
Friday.
always starts on the 1st.
In my head, that was Friday, but it came out the 1st. Yeah.
You know, that's a good.
And how many years have we done it this way?
It's been,
15 days or 14 days?
The way we have it set up here in this calendar right now.
One other time.
Every other time we've been able to be within the,
Should we canvass the board first? Mr. Jovers just threw that in my ear to see who's gonna be here. I mean, it's a ways out yet. We don't have to change it right this minute. Can we?
Make the meeting now, they should be there.
I can bring it up as a discussion point Thursday. Have everybody think
Just
about
get
it.
a consensus.
Yeah,
It's probably the second most important meeting of the year,
right.
in this year, at least.
So, hearing that, I would entertain a motion to,
You don't have to take any action.
well, I was just gonna say postpone it until next month. Make an official statement. that
Just
we're
lay it
gonna
over.
wait, so. Would you mind lay it over?
I'll make a motion to lay it over.
I hear a motion to lay it over. Do I hear a second? I heard a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Do your thing.
Chair reports. I will only say, I again, to me, most everything that I see from this position in terms of finance is doing pretty well, except for one area. I think you all know where that is. And we had a good meeting, nursing the other night, I thought, actually went better than, we didn't even get any public comment, which surprised me, because that's been the first time that I sat on that committee that we did not get one public comment. Pretty cool. But I did send a note today to Mr. Filippo, requesting, because one of the struggles I've had with that from a financial standpoint is why it takes so darn long to get the full revenue cycle done. You know, we've still got revenue sitting out there from 2022, crying out loud. It hasn't been collected yet. And so we're gonna ratchet that up. I've been talking to the administrator, working with Nicole, and trying to figure out a way we can put some more pressure on TCM to really come to the table. If there's things we're not doing, things they need help with, you know, I don't know what that might be. We're gonna get some parallel training done, I think, with the folks we've got out there, with Jennifer in the business office, who's a very seemingly sharp and capable person that might be able to handle a good chunk of that going forward. So I don't know, we'll see what happens with it all. But I did send Mike an email today asking for more information on each of these line items that we still haven't collected on yet. And in hopes that if we start looking at them more in depth, maybe we'll be able to start bringing that revenue in and put that nursing home on a better footing financially, at least in the short term. So that would be my only report from a finance. Administration, anything out of your community, Larry?
Not really.
Since we did it all already?
We brought the finances to you and we brought the other item for the ticketing system here, so we're good to go.
All right. Go Plain? I gotta get that, I'm gonna get that someday.
I before you,
I'm before you.
like cheap.
I just want, I don't know, maybe it's a Louisville thing in me. I still can't get that either.
All right, the public property and safety meeting. Sheriff Stovall presented the HVAC bid from Hell Mechanical. Looks like it was $2,072,411. It was approved and going to the full board for approval. One of LPR's license plate readers was installed on Montague Road, if I'm right. And he had one recruit graduate from PTI. He's in the FTO program, and he has two deputies leaving, and one for corrections. We have Director Townsend for EMA discussed changing the title for Robin Borsline from Assistant Director to Deputy Director. And we're going to discuss the particulars of that in the upcoming months. And the UTV is getting outfitted this week. It's arrived. And Sheriff Stoll also said there are 2 officers in the crime suppression unit, and it was responsible for the high rate of the 2 higher speed stops. Was it like 108? Both were above 100 miles per hour, and they were responsible for stopping them. And we approved the body cams, the purchase of them on claims. And that's about all I have.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Copeland, did you ever find out, whether, the jail ministry, are they allowed to come, to go into the jail or?
Yes, they are. I'll talk to the sheriff.
Okay.
Just make arrangements, I believe, with the jail superintendent, Nick Pontiac.
Okay.
Give him the pastor, tell him to call Nick.
Okay.
You know who's going in there, Mr. Bush?
Well, right now, he was saying that, Pastor Soul, who does the jail ministry, he said he wasn't allowed to go in. They do it by Zoom and stuff like that. They came up out of the meeting that, we had with the city manager, that he was asking if he could be able to get in to, he'd rather go in and talk to him face to face.
Sure.
Open.
Right. Yeah, if there's any issues with that, I'd like to know. I would like to help that. We do. Okay. Mr. Frick?
I just want to say to Mr. Copeland, I'm glad that we have two things that you provided for us that show some accountability on some of the things that we're doing in the sheriff's department. As far as the money we spend in that department, we at least know that we caught 2 high-speed chase people. I would always like to know what's going on in the sheriff's department with the money we spend. We don't ever have accountability. We only have spend. And I would really like to see a lot more accountability if we could.
Sure.
It just seems like we approve something every month for the sheriff's department and we spend money and then we never hear any more about it.
Sure, if you have any specific questions you need the sheriff to answer, just forward them to me, and
Sure.
I asked him quite a few questions at the meeting too.
Okay, very good, thank you. As far as planning and development, we will be bringing forward the purchase of 2 of the lots at Mill Race Crossing. That will be something that I can't give a whole lot of information here,
That
but
was a good deal.
Greater Freeport Partnership will be presenting on that, if I understand that correctly. And we're just glad that we're able to move some things along out there and have some spaces filled with the situation that we're in without having to have water and sewer and these businesses can continue. So I think that's an exciting thing for our county right now. Other than that, that's all I have.
Super. Yeah, I think it's exciting to have some more stuff going on there. Just, can't but help. So, Madam Baker?
We have the RFP for the HVAC that was posted, so that will be coming in June. For Thursday, we have bad debt write-off for $13,340.09. That will be coming to the full board. On Wednesday, I will be going to Springfield to sit for that Illinois Associated County Board members for the committee that they will be forming for in front of the which is also their spring conference. So there's several things going on with that. Census as today is 52, so it's continuing to rise. We did go over the hiring process for the administrator, trying to shorten it up, as I think that it's a little long process, but we're gonna give it a try. And other than that, that's really about it.
Any questions?
I do. The 13,000 in bad debt, how much of that is private pay?
It wasn't much.
Enjoy.
Not much.
Yeah, we actually, I gotta give Mr. Flippo credit on that. I pressed him on what that was, give us, because when they send the data, usually it doesn't have much. It's like, here's Medicaid, this number, Medicare, this number, whatever. I'm like, come on, you gotta, and he came through and said, no, it's this and this and this, and actually laid it out, we had the data, so I gotta give him credit on that. So it was one of them was, their fault because they didn't code it right. One of them was, it took too long or something, and they kept fighting with them, but then it was past the time. I don't remember the exact details, but I don't remember any of it being, might have been one out of the 4 was private pay. That's something to do with private pay.
Super, thank you.
But it's minuscule versus the amount that's still out there. So.
I think
Mr.
private
Book?
payers are supposed to prepay essentially,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I did with Grammar one. I had that check in there before, I know they were getting reimbursed for the rest of the balance.
Just was making sure that was happening.
Yeah. Except for the ones that are on, the waiting game. That's still an issue, I think. And that's another part I want to get into with some of these numbers. Cause we've got to be able to account for that somehow. When they come in and they're Medicaid pre-approved or they're waiting for approval, but that isn't going to kick in for 2, 3, 4 months. A lot of times the private dollars stack up and then that stuff just gets in never land and it doesn't get caught up right. And it needs to get caught up right when that happens. So anyway, Mr. Bush?
Yeah,
Services.
the discussion on probation and court service fund, which Ms. Helms spoke, explained that she was able to find some money that they had been accumulating that we didn't know nothing about. to where now that, the probation can be able to use. So, that was good news. Instead of, that money also too will be used towards purchasing the vehicle that they had requested during the budget. So now, so that was good news. Thank you. Within the discussion and approval of agreement with, I can't even pronounce this, but anyway, on the program for the clerk of order of protection online program, which is a program that's $3,200 annually, which is in the circuit clerk budget document storage account for pay for this year program. But she's hoping that when the SRL grant is offered again, that she'll be able to put in for this program. This is just an online program to help update people be able to fill out. It wasn't mentioned that there's some judge it might be helpful for him because they can't read his writing. So, thank you. And then approval of lease agreement with the Gordon Flesh and State's Attorney Office, which is a copier and printer machine. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bush. Any questions? All right, Brian?
So the most exciting thing that happened at Highway Department was the opening of bids for Cedarville Road. It is a 3.75 mile stretch that we are going to be able to get done for $500,000 less than the engineer's estimate.
Wow.
So it was a very good, a happy moment, and I think his idea right now is to sit back and make sure we don't have any serious overruns. And if not, then I'll continue to stay in check. He's looking at perhaps extending the project with that savings of the money. So
He wasn't looking for other suggestions on other roads that
no,
we might
no,
want to offer to him.
the focus is to finish Cedarville Road. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. Public comment?
Really.
No? Okay. Hearing none. So, Mr. Bush, we have a motion to adjourn. Any second? Second. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
5,000.